Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our intimate gathering tonight. I'd like to thank Mrs. Patterson for opening up her room to us while she's back there working. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is December 8th at 6 p.m. I will start by reading the mission statement aloud. The mission of Monument Academy is to provide a challenging, content-rich academic program offered within an engaging, caring, and positive learning environment. Established on a solid foundation of knowledge, Monument Academy emphasizes academic excellence, respect, responsibility, character, and exemplary citizenship. Would everyone please rise for the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, everyone. That will lead us into our roll call. Mrs. Belisle.
Here.
Mr. Buczkowski.
Here.
Mr. Carley.
Here.
Mrs. Clinton.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Gears.
Here.
And Ryan Graham is here for the record. We do have a quorum with 7 members in attendance. We will proceed forward with our agenda. That will lead us to any additions to the agenda. And board, I do have one addition tonight. I motion that under our executive session citation that we add the letter F, and at the end of the citation add "and to discuss personnel matters and legal questions regarding CFO, acting COO."
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion on said motion? Hearing none, Mrs. Belisle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buczkowski?
Aye.
Mr. Carley?
Aye.
Mrs. Clinton?
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Mr. Gears?
Aye.
Ryan Graham votes aye. That motion carries. Are there any other additions to the agenda tonight, board? All right, hearing none, then the remainder of the agenda will be approved through unanimous consent. And next on the agenda tonight will be the introduction of our interim COO, Mrs. Kim McClelland, who we have brought on as of last week, and I would like to bring you up tonight, and if you want to address the body in here.
Well, hello, everybody. It looks like it's such a great crowd tonight. I just want to thank the Monument Academy Board for the opportunity. I am super excited to serve the Monument community. I am a member, I'm a resident of Monument, and I'm always trying to find ways to serve this community because it is such a phenomenal community. And so this just is it's a perfect match for that. I know it's an interim position, but I am excited to just partner with the current staff and just look at how I can support in the best ways. From everything from looking just at some operational kinds of things and just really building relational capacity with all of the community and our parents and our staff, and just really bringing some cohesiveness to this amazing community. So I'm excited to be a part of this, and I know we have a lot of work to do, but I am up for the task. I am an empty nester now, so of course, empty nesters, we don't take much time off, so I have lots of time to fill, and as my husband would say, I just keep her fed. So I'm excited to be here and just get to know everyone, and we'll be I am going to be trying to have some multiple, like I call them couch talks or fireside chats and those kinds of things, just so that you guys can get to know me and know my heart and know who Kim McClelland is. I have been around in education for 25 years now in our community of El Paso County. So, and I come from educators, both my parents were educators, and so it's definitely in my blood to serve students and my community. So I just appreciate you guys, and I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to serving you all.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda will be our school spotlight. I'll yield to Mr. Carley for that.
All right, so every month we like to recognize someone in our community who's gone above and beyond
And this person this month goes above and beyond every month. As we had the start of the school year, as we had our CEO resign, this person really stepped up and was very, reluctant to do so at first, which we really respected, because he wanted to make sure he was doing a good job at his current role as CFO. And Mark Brocklehurst, we just want to thank you so much for all that you do, all the tireless work that you put in, and really serving this community and making this a better place. And we can't thank you enough.
Good shot.
Last one was the most, yeah, can't see that.
Thank you, Mr. Carlin. To echo your sentiment regarding Mr. Brocklehurst, we greatly appreciated you. Next on the agenda tonight will be citizen comments, which I see we have none, so that will move us into our consent agenda. So Board, the minutes from November 10th, November 18th, and December 1st have been distributed to you electronically. Are there any corrections or requests or for the minutes to be read aloud? All right. Hearing none, the minutes are approved as distributed by unanimous consent. The next item on the consent agenda will be approving the next meeting date of January 12th, 2023 at 6 p.m. here at the East Campus. Are there any objections to January 12th? Hearing none, the meeting date, time, and location is set by unanimous consent. And that will move us into reports of administration and committees. We'll start with you, Mr. Brocklehurst, as our previous acting COO.
Mark, that may flip.
Yeah, I know, I've seen it happen.
Yes, last meeting.
I'll hold it and hopefully it won't. All right. Sorry. Let's see. All right, I'm going to start with staffing needs, just as a reminder to folks out there. We're still looking for a number of elementary paraprofessionals and some exceptional student services paraprofessionals out there. Now, a couple of these, I know we put out some offers recently, but I think these ones are still out there in need. A secondary math teacher, a secondary English teacher, that may have been, an offer may have been out there, and a secondary science and social studies teacher. Then I know we might be speaking to some of this later. I'll give kind of brief updates regarding property appraisal report. We did receive that from the county. So we're looking at that and comparing it to our, we had our own appraiser also appraise the portion of little strip of land that runs along 105 by West Campus. So we have those to look at. We've forwarded that to our legal counsel to review and verify some of the other right-of-way components to it, so we understand all of that. So they're looking at that for us. In regards to the recirculation project, we received 2 bids. I think we've mentioned that before. We're looking at those. We spoke with our county engineer and kind of walked through what that looked like to get their eyes on that as well. And they felt comfortable with both bids, so we're fortunate there. We should be moving forward here pretty soon. Again, another thing that goes to legal counsel to have their eyes on it and get their blessing as well. So that'll be underway. And really, that's all I've got at this point for the COO report. Is there any questions I can answer for you?
Thank you, sir. If you want to lead into the CFO report.
This one will be short too. So we are what, 5 months in, 40%, about 42% of the year for reference. Revenue for November, $935,000. Fiscal year to date, we're about $5.1 million, and that is about 42% of the annual budget, so right on track there. No real variances to speak with regards to this month. Expenses for November are right at $1 million, and fiscal year to date, we're at $4.6 million in expenses, or 37% of the annual budgeted expense. Monthly variances there, some supply purchases. I don't know that I updated that. Yeah, supply purchases this time of year are a little higher than normal. We had a net loss for November of $82,000. Currently, we are at a net income for the fiscal year of $487,000. And for reference, last year at this time, we were at $934,000 net income. I think I listed a few other things in CFO report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Board, any questions?
So, Mark, do you just want to maybe discuss the revised budget that's in that packet?
Yes, I certainly can. Bear with me while I pull it up. All right, so with October count having passed, we revised our budget for the year so that we can forward that onto the district and plug in more actual numbers for our student enrollment and an actual number for the per pupil revenue, PPR. So as of October, PPR for Lewis Palmer District 38 is $9,050 per student. We ended up with an October count enrollment of 1,111 students. So the impact, I'll start with revenue impact, and we'll start with West Campus. So looking at the original PPR per pupil revenue that we had budgeted on was $9,118 based on an estimate at the time in April that we put together that original budget. So that number is lower at $9,050, so that's a difference of $68 per student. So overall, a decrease for West PPOR funding of about $42,000. We have an increase to the building use revenue, and that is due to an increase in the rent that the preschool is being charged. We increased that by $60,000 to cover the costs that staff renting the facility that it typically comes out of our general fund. So to help offset that, that's why we increased that portion. There's a slight increase to the state capital construction line item on the budget, and that's due to the higher per student amount that's allotted to us. So that's an increase of about $7,000 in the revenue column. We'll jump over to East Campus. Again, the per pupil revenue is down $68 per student. That impact on East is a little more substantial. We have a decrease of $388,000, and that's related to the lower student enrollment than we had originally budgeted on. I think we're down about 25 students than we had anticipated. We have an increase in the gifts and donations revenue line item, and that's due to the planned fundraising campaign. So that increase is $170,000 for a total of $500,000. So our goal this year is to raise that $500,000 there. There's a decrease to the MLO revenue line, and that is related to the lower enrollment, because that component's based on enrollment. We get our proportionate share with the district based on enrollment across the board there. There's a decrease in instructional material fees, again related to enrollment. Less students, less fees come in. It's about $11,000 difference. And then a decrease in the state capital construction component, also related to enrollment. Now I'll switch over to the expense impact, and we'll start with West. We've got an increase in salary and benefits, and that's related to the additional costs of subs. We had already exceeded our budget at this point in the year, so we had to increase that. And with the addition of some extra full-time hires, the additional benefits with that. So you're looking at an increase in expense of about $80,000. We have an increase in professional contracted services. This is related to a few things: outsourced payroll, a small outsourced human resource component, outsourced occupational therapist, and increased legal fees. And so all that is an additional $143,000. There's a increase to the supplies and materials expense line related to some software subscriptions. And that's about $20,000. At East Campus, we actually have a decrease in salary and benefits related to some staffing decisions and how things were planned out there of about $36,000. An increase in the professional contracted services, again, with regards to the outsourced payroll, HR, and the additional legal, and that's an additional $76,000. There's an increase in property-related services due to some custodial costs, about $11,000. Looking at a decrease in other purchased and contracted services, and that's related to lower district fees, and that's as a result of the lower enrollment. So you've got a savings of about $22,000 there. There's also a decrease in supplies and materials, adjusted to match current spend and to help offset some of the other increases elsewhere. So a savings there of about $35,000. So the overall net income, net loss impact for West Campus, we're looking at a net income of about $3,000. And then at East, we're looking at a net loss of $594,000. In terms of a ending fund balance at West Campus, we'll be at 1.7 million, almost 1.8 million. At East, we'll have an ending fund balance of $740,000. With these ending fund balances, we're still within our days cash on hand. So that's an important aspect to consider in all this. And that's kind of what I've got there. So if you've got have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, Mark, just couple questions to clarify for the board. So the costs we've discussed at East, like getting the modulars functional, and some costs at West related to HVAC, those are baked into this budget, correct?
That's correct.
Right. Good. And so, board, this budget might be one that you want to, tag in your folder to then have access to at some point, because it does compare where we thought we would be in April to where we kind of know where we are at this point in the school year. So this is a good document for us to reference as we go forward.
Mr. Brocklehurst, when will the audit?
Sorry.
That's all right. When will the audit be completed?
I'm supposed to get a draft audit here within, hoping by the end of next week. Usually once I receive that, there's a little bit of back and forth. We can usually wrap that up in a week, so we should have that done.
Will we need to call a special meeting prior to the end of the calendar year for any reason to approve any revisions?
For the budget,
Yes.
if there's any changes that need to be made.
Okay. All right, well, we'll just, for now, just leave that to be determined, if you will. Just want to make sure that there's nothing right now that's slated for, that we need to be looking out for towards the end of the year.
Don't believe so.
Okay, perfect. Board, is there any further questions for Mr. Brocklehurst? All right, hearing none, that will move us into our committee reports. I will start with Highway 105. I don't know if this was shared publicly yet, but as Mr. Brocklehurst said, we did receive 2 bids at the West Campus, and currently we are reviewing those with legal counsel, and we actually will be going into executive session tonight to have further discussion around those bids, so I won't share anything more publicly in regards to those bids. But right now, as it appears, if we move forward with intent for one, that we could potentially be starting that project at West Campus mid-May. And the completion on the phase 1 portion, which would be where we would have a road carved in behind West Campus, which would essentially be the recirculation portion. Our intent would have that completion date sometime around September, October. And as everyone is aware, our use agreement right now with the LDS Church, who obviously has allowed us to egress out through their lot out onto 105, we have an agreement through December 31st of next year. So this would be well within that time frame to start phase 1. The second component to that is the phase 2 portion. The phase 2 portion is to be determined, if you will, only because that will be done in conjunction with the 105 expansion. And so we don't have a time frame on when that will take place at this time. But the phase 1 portion being on our property, that will be the piece of this that we all have been waiting on and working on for the last 2 years. So that is my update for the Highway 105 Committee. Board, do you have any questions on that? Hearing none, then we will move to Mrs. Belisle for the curriculum.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Let's see. The curriculum committee met yesterday. The things to report are that a math curriculum subcommittee has been formed, and that group met for the first time today, so more information coming on that. We touched on the cost of purchasing new math curriculum and what's feasible, and again, more exploring to do on that as the subcommittee brings us back some more options. Mr. Van Chattel reported that there will be a mid-year math NWEA assessment for the middle school only to gather more data on how our current math curriculum in the middle school is performing, and just to kind of see and assess where our kids are. And that specific date hasn't been set for that, but it'll just be math, and it'll be sometime in mid-January. The 2023 core knowledge curriculum has been released and is ready for the committee to review. We had just a real broad discussion about what is new, and we will revisit this at the next meeting. We also discussed the need to form an MA policy for parent review and feedback, a step inserted into our new curriculum adoption, and to create our own policy for that, but we will likely model our own policy on District 38's policy and just adapt it as necessary to fit MA. The next step on that is to research the policy that D38 has and present it to our governance committee. We very preliminarily began discussions on the use of technology in our school, more specifically the one-to-one device usage for our East Campus. Again, the group is still discussing these concerns and figuring out how to chart the best course forward. More to come on that. But in the meantime, parents, if you have any specific feedback, questions, suggestions, concerns, I'm open to hearing that, so reach out to me specifically. And our next meeting will be on January 11th. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Belisle. Any questions? Board? All right, that'll move us to our SAC West. Mr. Geters.
SAC West met earlier this week. The big item was the parent survey results are in. And that information, that data was collated and analyzed, and recommendations will be made by the committee to be sent up to the board probably in the next month or two. Just briefly, there was 144 responses to that survey. The vast majority highly satisfied. I won't go into all of it. Additionally, a note was made that the West PTO needs board members, so we need at least 2 board members to keep that going, and so they are in search of anyone who would like to take advantage of that opportunity. The last thing was the craft fair. There was 113 applications for that. It went very well. My daughter spent a lot of money there. There is also a teacher appreciation luncheon on Friday afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Geters. Board, any questions? All right, back to you, Mrs. Belisle, for SAC East.
Thank you. Really no report, just a quick reminder to please participate in the SAC East survey. And just one thing to note that might be a little different. If you have more than one student at East Campus, you need to fill out a survey per student. That would be most helpful. And it takes less than 10 minutes per survey, and your feedback is super valuable to us. And the survey closes on December 16th. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Belisle. Mr. Buczkowski, governance to you, sir.
Yes, thank you. No report other than today we will discuss some changes to the employee handbook, which are in the packet and are part of our action items later.
Thank you, sir. And back to you, Mr. Buczkowski, on finance.
Yes, thank you. So the Finance Committee met on December 6th, and we had a very good meeting. We went over this revised budget, which you have today. And there's a couple of key numbers that stand out in that budget. If you have that in front of you, I do want you to turn to the East Campus portion. So in the revenues of the East Campus portion, Mr. Brocklehurst pointed out that we have a budgeted line item of $500,000 for our donation goal. And so for the board, the people here in the audience today, Mr. Dykes, that is the budgeted amount that for our donations. That's our goal to raise in our Links Fund and our other giving. And the next number that I want to point out is actually on the last page of that East budget. Now, Mr. Brocklehurst pointed these numbers out as well, but if you're on that last page, there's an ending fund balance of $739,930. So that is our projected ending cash balance for this fiscal year, including the $500,000 of donations. a couple lines beneath that is a line that says 40 days cash on hand minimum. And so that number is $672,935. So that is like our bond covenants days cash minimum that we have to maintain. So, and Mr. Brockler did point out that there's still a comfortable cushion between the $740,000 above it and this minimum amount that we have to maintain. But I do want us to understand that it is predicated on achieving the $500,000 in donations. So there's no surprises here in a few months. Good. Now, the West Campus, as you probably saw in the budget that Mr. Brockler pointed out, is in excellent shape financially. Unfortunately, funds from that campus cannot be transferred to the East Campus. So it's just one of the constraints we have to work with. In our Finance Committee meeting, we also had a conference call with Russ Caldwell. And Russ Caldwell formerly worked for D.A. Davidson as basically a charter school finance person who would issue bonds for schools. And he has been advising Monument Academy at no cost on our upcoming, refinances, the potential for a phase 2 construction out here at East, as well as looking down the road when we need to refinance the bonds for both campuses. So, since the MLO did not pass, there are a few sort of ramifications in the short term. So there's no finance opportunity for a phase 2 construction here at the East Campus in the immediate short term. Had the MLO passed, there was probably something that we could have done to get something going, maybe athletic fields or maybe a gymnasium, something at least to get going. That's probably not possible at this time. Now, that would change with a couple of things. One, a successful MLO next fall. So if that is indeed on the ballot again and it passes, that would quickly change what Monument Academy can do regarding a phase 2 at this campus. The other thing that could change in the meantime is improved business fundamentals of the school, including increased enrollment. But that would very much help the case for doing some kind of phase 2 construction on this East Campus. So also one of the ramifications, because the MLO did not pass, we're not going to pursue a financial advisor at this time to help us go to the bond markets and try to refinance or obtain financing for a phase 2. Mostly so we don't waste our time and we don't waste their time. Now, the current bonds on both campuses can be refinanced in the fall of 2024, so less than 2 years away. And the good news here is there's an exciting opportunity at that time to refinance the bonds and borrow for a substantial phase 2. Now we'll have more information on that and what that could look like in January, but what we're hopeful is that for the fall of 2024, if not earlier, we're planning on a phase 2, a substantial phase 2 construction at here at the East Campus. So hopefully that's good news to everyone. Also, I want the board to remember that the existing bonds must be refinanced by spring 2026 because of the balloon payments are due on those bonds.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Michkowski. Board, any questions? All right, buildings and facilities, Mr. O'Brien.
Nothing new to report.
All Volunteer Committee, Mrs. Clinton.
Just a couple quick highlights. So we have currently onboarded around 200 volunteers, and I just checked the number, and those 200 volunteers have put in almost around 4,000 volunteer hours since we started the Track It Forward program last February. And that's assuming everybody's tracked their hours accordingly, and I'm guilty of not always putting mine in, even though I kind of pushed for this. So there's probably a lot of other hours floating out there as well. But I have two PTO representatives, one's from East, one from West, that have been actively working on continuing to onboard people. And we sent home flyers with some of the West Campus families this week. I've got to get some more printed, and then we will finish getting those sent home in their Friday folders. So we'll just keep plugging away at that and getting more and more people involved, and this helps us see all the different areas that people are choosing to really engage. I did get a question from someone about the difference between Lobby Guard and Track It Forward. So just for anyone here or that's going to watch the recording, Lobby Guard gives us the ability to know who's in the building and also runs the quick background check with your license, and that's how you get your badge. But what Lobby Guard didn't do sufficiently for volunteers was give us a good system to have signups and see where people can be engaged and plug in different events and all of those things. So that's where Track It Forward is an all-in-one spot for what's happening at the schools, where you can sign up, and then we can break down reports for grants or any other or bond initiatives, anything that we needed to have that for. So they're two different systems. So please do both. We have to do Lobby Guard, but please also make sure you're doing your Track It Forward, and I'll get better about it too. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Clinton. Mr. Carley, Resource Development, to you, sir.
So the RDC committee met on Wednesday, so yesterday, and really what we were looking at doing is discussing the Lanes Fund that we brought up last week in the Give Hope meeting. So some of the plans that we have currently, we would like to hold quarterly meetings to give updates to the community and the Monument Academy community on just what's going on and really what the plan is and kind of where we're at. We did put together some campaigns and some ideas around how to reach the community, as well as to notify all our families as well who might not have attended the Give Hope meeting last week, but just how to keep them notified and really how to reach out to the community and people who might share our mission and want to give as well, along with other businesses. And currently, right now after the meeting, we have raised just about $16,000, so it is moving forward. We have some ways to go, but we have action items on how to build energy around it with the community, so that's it.
Thank you, sir. That will complete our reports of admin and committees, which will move us into our items requiring board discussion and action. I'm very happy to announce that we now will be looking at implementing watchdogs here at the East Campus. We've had great success at West Campus. So that said, I would like to yield to you, Mr. Vinciato, if you would like to make any introductions tonight.
Yep, so I have Mr. Jeff Henry here and Mr. Mike Slajowski. And so if you guys want to go up there and kind of just speak to what we've been working on all semester, I'll turn it over to y'all.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jeff Henry. I volunteered to be the initial coordinator for Watchdogs for MA East. And if you want to know about me, I'll tell you about me later, but talk more about Watchdogs first. I got interested about 2 years ago when I saw a news program about a Philadelphia school that had been in terrible shape, less than 50% graduation rate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And my sister actually lives near that school, unfortunately, because it's a really rough area. But they implemented Watchdogs, and I think when they first did it, it wasn't called that initially, but they ended up calling it that. And within a year, they were up to 60-something% graduation rate. They had a far better rate of poor behavior, et cetera, all that. And I was amazed that in 1 year that you could turn things around so much. And they had a really good video of the fathers in this school and how they were interacting with the students and what they were doing. And it was a high school. I think I forgot to mention that. And so, rough high school, and the fathers getting involved, and these were fathers that traditionally didn't get involved in anything. But they got them to start, and it snowballed. As 1 or 2 fathers got involved and they liked it, they got other fathers involved, and it kept growing and it kept growing. And even the fathers one of the fathers they talked to had dropped out of high school and ended up going back getting a GED several years later, but he didn't want his kids to go through that. So he was involved and he got it going. So the whole idea behind Watchdogs is to get fathers involved. We all know that mothers tend to be the ones that volunteer the most. Fathers, not as much. They tend to be out doing something else. What we're trying to say is, one time every couple of weeks, one time every month, whatever. It doesn't matter how little. It's something. And you get involved and your kid sees you there, the other kids see you there, the other fathers see you there, and it goes on from there. And you get these fathers who come in, and initially they might be a little bit timid, a little bit shy with all the kids around, but you get them interested, you get them in there that first time, and they learn that this is a lot of fun. And so we want to do this not just during the school day, we want to do it for extracurricular activities, for band concerts, all that kind of stuff, so that we can wear these Watchdog shirts like Mike here is wearing.
Just picked it up Tuesday.
Yeah. And just get the fathers to have a stake, not just in their kids, but in their schools, with the other fathers, with the sports programs, with the extracurriculars, anything from band to the plays and everything else. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. Like I said, it can be a short time. It can be just 1 day a month. It could even be less than that. I'm hoping, honestly, to do at least once a week. I'm lucky enough to be in a position where I'm flexible and I can do that. So, fascinatingly, my son, who's a 6th grader here, first brand new into Monument Academy, he thinks it's really cool. I figure next year he probably won't think it's as cool. Maybe goes down from there, but we'll see. We're looking forward to it. We've met with Colin a couple times now. We're trying to get all the little tiny details ready. We're going to have a dry run of our kickoff event on the 9th, which is Monday, January 9th. And then Tuesday, January 10th, we're going to have the big kickoff. Pizza party, we're going to have a raffle. We're figuring out all the different things we're going to be able to raffle off. The one person that's missing here is John Albert, and he has a bunch of resources available to him that we're going to take advantage of. So you're not just getting us, you're getting our resources and our backgrounds and everything as well. Mike and John and I are going to be kind of your 3 musketeers to do this. That way, if one of us is not available, then at least one of the other 2 will be. And we want your inputs, we want the teachers' inputs, we want the other parents' inputs. We want everybody involved as much as they want to be, or as little as they want to be, but we want everybody involved. So with that, I'll point to Mike and see if he wants to say anything, and then you can ask us anything you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, the reason for us to be here is to answer any questions you might have offline or in the official meeting that we're having. Met with PTO just after we had our meeting and was basically overwhelmed by the enthusiasm that they demonstrated that we were coming to this. So I'm not familiar with the West program, but I'm excited about it. We're looking at ways to initiate more awareness, to include like flyers at car lines and Facebook. I was recently given permission to be on the Facebook page, so I'm supposed to post early and post often. So if you see that starting to come out, what we want to do is guilt the dads, because the moms are really, the moms are so busy doing all these other things, and we're looking at having a competition where if a class meets a minimum standard of 60% or whatever, volunteers, they get the spirit wear, which I understand is just amazingly successful. So the kids will do anything to not wear the uniform. So if we can do that, that would be great. But so we want you to take the opportunity to ask us questions, but also to take the idea, move it forward. And if there's ideas and examples or experiences that you might want to share, we'd appreciate hearing that so we can leverage that and promulgate the good news further.
Let me add one more thing. The idea for the watchdogs is not just to be there for students. It's to be there for the teachers, for the administration, pretty much for anybody and everybody that needs a hand with something. So you might see us carrying boxes around, or you might see us standing with a student talking with, or with the principal or vice principal or whatever. So we're supposed to be jacks of all trades. We're supposed to get in there and mix it up. And just by our presence, hopefully be a good influence on the kids. I've been called other than good influences in the past, but we'll see what happens. So with that, anybody have any questions? Geez, we did too well.
Excellent, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I'd really like to say thank you for stepping up and doing this. It is much needed, and truly, we honor you for being here and being willing to take this on.
Looking forward to it.
We will put out board highlights after this meeting. Who would be the go-to contact for our parent community? Who would they reach out to if they have questions?
You can give them my name, you can give them Mike's name, and you can give them John Albert's name.
Okay.
Any one of us.
So what we will do is we'll circle up with Mr. Machado and get that information. We'll make sure that goes out in our board highlights.
Excellent.
And let us know what we can do to assist and serve you guys as you serve in this role. So.
You'll probably see us next week handing out save the date flyers for
Perfect.
the 10th. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Or there's no action that would need for us to, or that we need to take on that. So that'll move us into our preschool policy regarding inclement weather. As each of you should have received that copy electronically from West Campus admin, we did have a discrepancy between our K-5 handbook and the preschool policy in relation to inclement weather days. So the proposed change is before you, where we would just have the MA preschool policy, procedure, philosophy aligned with the K-5 handbook in regard to if a delay is called. So what I will do is I'll just make a motion. So I move that we approve 7.702.31. Point B, point 4, inclement weather policy under Monument Academy Preschool Classroom Policies, Procedures, and Philosophy as presented by the preschool director and admin team at West to come in alignment with our K-5 handbook.
I second.
Board, is there any discussion on said motion? All right. Hearing none, Mrs. Belisle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wachkowski?
Aye.
Mr. Carley?
Aye.
Ms. Clinton?
Aye.
Mr. Gears?
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Ryan Graham votes aye. That motion carries. Ms. Clinton, I do believe we will need to update that policy on the website, so if you could either direct that through Mrs. McClellan, or have that taken care of through tech. All right, board, next on the agenda is the employee handbook revisions. So our Director of People Operations has presented 2 needed revisions to our employee handbook. Both of those revisions have been sent to you electronically as well as the community. Is there any request for me to read these aloud? And as I ask that question, I do believe that I need to read those aloud before I motion these in. So the first will be extended leave without FMLA. Any employee who must take the following leave without FMLA needs to adhere to the policy regarding paid time off and leave without pay. Medical leave. Employee is unable to perform the functions of his or her position due to a serious health condition. Family leave. Employee's incapacity due to pregnancy, prenatal medical care, or childbirth to care for the employee's child after birth, or placement in adoption or foster care if within 12 months following birth, adoption, or placement in foster care, or to care for a spouse, child under 18 years old or disabled, or parent of the employee who has a serious health condition. Third bullet point, service member leave to care for a covered service member or for certain qualifying exigencies related to a spouse, child, or parent who is on covered active duty or called to covered active duty in the armed forces. Qualifying exigencies may include, for example, attending certain military events, arranging for alternative child care, addressing certain financial and legal arrangements, attending certain counseling sessions, and attending post-deployment reintegration briefings. Employee may choose to use all accrued paid time off, including sick and personal leave. Once the paid time off accrual reaches 0 hours, employee will not be paid until he or she returns to work. The entire duration of the leave after the paid time off is used will be unpaid leave. Employees do not have paid holidays, therefore any breaks or days that are included in employee's employment agreement will be considered contract days that will fall under unpaid leave. Employee can choose to continue receiving benefits offered through Monument Academy. Employee will pay his or her benefit contributions directly to Monument Academy. If employee is termed at any point or at the end of the leave taken, employee will be provided information regarding the termination of benefits under Monument Academy and the option and timeline to transition to COBRA. Employees who are taking leave due to medical reasons that leave them unable to perform the functions of his or her position due to a serious health condition can request to utilize the sick bank as long as they have contributed to the bank as well. Employees who take extended leave who do not qualify for FMLA are not guaranteed an equivalent position in pay and benefits, nor are they guaranteed employment upon date of anticipated return. Employees can be subject to termination at any point throughout the leave period who do not qualify under FMLA. As stated in the employment agreement, Section 3, at-will employment signed by employee and employer, employee can be terminated without cause, reason, or warning. Section 3, this is an at-will employment agreement. That means that either the employee or the employer may terminate the employment relationship at any time with or without cause, reason, or warning. Nothing contained in this agreement shall be construed to be a contract of employment for any definite term, nor shall it confer upon the employees the right to continue as the employee of employer in any capacity. So that is the first added revision. What I'd like to do is I'll just read the second aloud and then I'll make a motion to take both into consideration. Second will be under Monument Academy's procedures for administrative leave investigations. Number 1, Monument Academy will conduct a formal investigation into the claims made regarding the incident. On date of incident, a term or probationary at-will employee may be suspended with pay or placed on administrative leave by the school administration and/or Monument Academy Board of Directors during an investigation of alleged misconduct by the employer at any time the school administration and/or board of directors determines that the school's best interests will be served by the suspension or administrative leave. Legal may be consulted at any point in the investigation to ensure Monument Academy is adhering to the school's and the employee's rights and responsibilities. Number 2, the initial investigation team will be the employee's direct supervising principal, assistant principal, and director of people operations. Subsection 1, if one of the aforementioned employees on the investigation team is the employee on administrative leave, another administrator will be appointed to the investigation team. Number 3, chief operating officer will be brought in to review the findings of the investigation. Number 4, the investigation findings will be presented to the board of directors or an elected committee of board members. The initial investigation team, the COO, and the board or board committee will make a decision based on the evidence available. Number 5, once a final decision is made, employee is given either 48 business hours notice of a return to work, or employee is informed of the termination of the at-will employment agreement signed by employee and employer. Number 6, If employee is cleared to return to work, employee is responsible to schedule a meeting with administration and technology support to regain access to the facilities and property of Monument Academy that is assigned to employee. Activation of employee's email will be done at this time. Number 7, if employee is cleared to return to work, he/she may be required to undergo further training and/or be placed on a performance improvement plan. This training and/or improvement plan will be required as a way to support the employee in his/her professional growth and not as a disciplinary action. Number 8, if employee is terminated as the result of the findings of the investigation, employee will be provided a time to return to the school building to gather personal belongings. Employee will be escorted by supervisor to ensure he/she has access to all areas of the building in which he/she has personal belongings stored. We do need a written statement from the employee detailing the alleged incident. This statement will be considered a formal submission to the investigation. However, the employee may be asked to come in for further questions if the investigation requires it. Employee has the right to terminate the at-will employment agreement at any time throughout the paid administrative leave or suspension. And as a footnote, Monument Academy is committed to doing its due diligence to investigate any incident that requires an employee to go on administrative leave with integrity, honesty, impartiality, and the goal to come to the conclusion that provides the truth and is in the best interest of students and the schools. Board, thank you for bearing with me on that. That read aloud now, I move that we approve the revisions and additions in the employee handbook, including extended leave without FMLA and Monument Academy's procedures for administrative leave investigations.
Second.
Board, any discussion on said motion? All right, hearing none, Mrs. Belisle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buczkowski?
Aye.
Mr. Carley?
Aye.
Mrs. Clinton?
Aye.
Mr. Years?
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Ryan Graham votes aye. That motion carries. Thank you, Board. All right, next on the discussion action will be our athletic director presentation regarding a change in policy regarding athletic wear. Mr. Svensson?
Hey, I haven't had the chance to introduce myself. I'm Mike Svensson. I'm our athletic director here. I've been working hard to build an athletic store, got it approved, and now I'm trying to work on allowing our students to show off their athletics and their abilities. We have in the middle school have won 4 championships, a 2nd place finish and a 4th place finish. At the high school level, we built together a volleyball team that found some success as the season went on, and our basketball team that just kicked off is already 2-1, and they're in Meeker right now for their first ever tournament. Here are some of the items that we offer with All-American. These would be very similar to what I believe follows our uniform policy at the middle school. And I think it's important that students have this option because athletics is really important to me, which is what brought me into this role. And when I offered it, I wanted to immediately jump on and say yes, but had the discussion with the wife and everything. But I think it's important for students to feel appreciative with their sports and athletics and things like that. And I think that really drives the morale at a school. I'm not sure who in here is a part of athletics in middle school or high school, but I was, and I just always felt proud wearing the football shirts, the wrestling shirts, and then with friends and my brothers playing hockey, being able to wear hockey gear and stuff like that. I think it's really important that it brings kids together. You don't necessarily have to be the athlete to be friends with the athlete, and this would be a great way to do it. If you look at some of the items, some of the colors are crossed out because I wanted to stick with our Monument Academy colors, where it'd be the royal blue, black, and white. I left gray in there as an option, but I've been told that gray is not necessarily the most favorite color to wear, but if you notice, everything has a collar, so it's still look professional with the quarter zips. I would still have it be required that they still have some sort of a uniform appropriate shirt underneath. Speaking with a lot of my athletes and just a lot of my students in general, I brought this up, like how would you feel if you could wear a shirt that said, like Monument Academy, football, cheerleading, cross country, and they all got super excited, their eyes lit up, and I think that's just a great way to build the spirit here, but also to retain kids into the high school as we are kicking off some high school sports. And as we're trying to build that, because a lot of kids leave for other schools, and I would like our athletes to stay here so that not only can they win us championships or just have success in the middle school, they can carry that over into the high school and then hopefully with phase 2 in the near future. Questions?
So just for everyone's benefit here, I assume marketing and admin, everybody has had eyes on it and signed off.
I worked on this since September, and I believe I do have all the people that should be involved because I think I went around this about 4 or 5 times. I wanted the store open in October for conferences, and I was like, well, did you speak with this person? So the logos, the items on the store, talking with PTO. The other great benefit of this is this will help fund our athletics, which in some cases, some of the sports are starting off, so we have negative balance. But with allowing PTO to have this too and kind of partner with them, this will also help fund some PTO stuff. So we're kind of sharing the profits from this along with PTO. So not only do we help our athletes, we're helping the teachers, everything. And I believe long answer for you. Everyone signed off on it.
One of the issues we've had in the past was, well, it's recently, the last couple of years has been from a COVID thing, but it has been delays. So are the vendors that you're using, is the stock good? Will we be able to provide these quickly?
The turnaround, as of now, especially the busy time, what I've been told is about 3 weeks. So we did have the store open, and this was getting my ducks in a row. I had it open before Thanksgiving break, but there was still one person needed to sign off on it as we were going into break. So I didn't get that until after break. So we had it open for a week just to get a feel. I'm hoping to open it again in January with the approval of this to kind of help market it as, here, buy these items. And then with All-American, we can take off colors. We can kind of form our own section. Like here, this is an athletic uniform store. So it would just be the items that are approved, hopefully, for kids to wear with an addition to our uniform policy.
That 3 weeks is great. Like Land's End, our items, some of them are like 6 months. So 3 weeks is great.
And I can speak highly for All-American. My kids go to Banning Lewis because we live there. We had some issues with some of the stuff we bought, and they quickly bring it in. We'll fix it. We'll have it to you shortly. And they've been really good for me and to me and to the school. They got us brand new basketball jerseys. They're working on new volleyball jerseys, things like that. So, and they're part of the Colorado Springs community, which I also like.
I have a question. Are these, so right now the athletes wear their jerseys, their playing jerseys, the day of, game day. So are these just, you can wear one of these any day of the week as an approved uniform option?
That's what I would like. I think that would help drive sales, which will once again help our athletics by funding them, but it also part of those sales in order to use like the PTO website to advertise it. Part of the sales I would give back to the PTO as well.
So this would just be an incorporated option in uniform
This would be
wear.
in addition to the uniform, not trying to change anything of the uniform.
Right, and so they would be able to wear this game day, not game day, anytime they like.
Yes.
Okay.
Question, is this just for athletes though? So
No.
Okay, just.
So this would be, like I said, like, you have friends
Right.
that like the athletes. You have the kids that aren't into sports, but we want to support the sports. And then my big thing is to open this up to our staff. And I've had a few teachers, when I opened the store last week, already bought stuff to support our athletics. And I think that's even a bigger accomplishment when kids see, hey, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so's got a volleyball shirt, a cross-country shirt, a cheer shirt. We're here for the kids, and that's my drive with this, is not necessarily for the way it looks, but for our kids, for the students, student athletes, fans, spectators, and all that.
Unity and school spirit.
Yes.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Okay, that's all I had. I appreciate your time and allowing me to step in.
Thank you very much.
Oh, wait, one more question here.
Yeah.
So now he'd like to open his store to get an order in early January, is that?
So I can kind of open it whenever. So I opened it just until last Sunday so that we could potentially get those orders before Christmas. We can reopen it. I can open it whenever I want. I just gotta tell All-American, let's open it now. So I'd kind of like to try a second run of the store whenever the board makes a decision on this, so that I can promote it once again and then promote the uniform attire.
So like January 12th would be the next time we could officially amend the uniform policy, but what can we do in the meantime?
What is that? I'm confused.
What, maybe I'm confused. Does the high school uniform policy, well, I guess it allows them to wear anything. The high school one does, but the middle school one
Right, so
does
you're
not.
saying we need red lines for the
Yes.
middle school one?
Ms. Clinton and I were just reviewing that policy, and I agree that we would need red lines on there. Because those red lines, ultimately, we would present back to the community and give them an opportunity to weigh in on this. So you are correct, Joe, that we would want to bring this back on the January 12th board meeting. How is that going to play out for you, wanting to early January?
Not at all.
Okay.
If I have to wait a few weeks, I wanted it open in October, I've waited till, if I gotta wait a few weeks, I will do whatever I have to do for the student athletes and the students in school.
I agree with that. I mean, ultimately, this board could override that, and we could sit here and start redlining policy tonight, so. But I would encourage the board to consider the fact that we would want to bring this back into the community. I know that we sent this out in our board packet, and we did not receive any feedback from there, but I would like to clarify exactly what we would be presenting. And Mr. Svensson, I noticed you've got X's on some of these.
Those were navy blue color options, which don't really match with our school colors, so
Yeah.
those colors would be vetoed out of there and not available to be an offer.
Okay. Mr. Wischkowski, could we assign red lines on the governance side to come back for the January?
Yeah.
When we were looking at the policy, it appears we would need to add probably an entire new section to accommodate any changes to that, so.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that, and maybe this time we'll try to maybe look at this and draft something that, so going forward, you know, when the one shirt changes, one comes back on, that we don't have to amend the policy. We'll try to do something that's a little bit more forward-looking. And the other thing I think I'd suggest is that when we send out to the community here on Monday our summary of this meeting, that we need our parent community to get back to us one way or the other if they have opinions about this, that the board intends to allow this sort of uniform change starting in January.
So I can put what we have, this stuff in with the board highlights as an attachment.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
Lindsay. With-
And then
with the
I'll
board
just
highlights.
put where to provide feedback. Oh, should I just put you as a person working on red lines?
I can assign you. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, now you know what, Danny, he's trying to hide over there.
I'll put Danny.
He's on governance.
You're so much better at it than I am.
Yeah, either one of us, because we'll look at it together and draft something.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, thank you, Mr. Svensson. We will table this until January, and we'll be gathering information and come back with some red lines, so.
If you have any questions, need anything from me, don't hesitate to reach out.
I appreciate you putting this together and reaching out to admin to present it tonight, so
Yeah,
thank you.
this looks exciting. And it's a great forward move for the school, so thank you for all the work on that since October.
Working hard, so
Yep.
yeah, thank you. I got my wife and kids, so I'm gonna go get with them, but I appreciate you filling me in last second. You all have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, board, last on discussion action was a East Campus modular update. I was probably a little preliminary adding this to the agenda. At this point, Molly Swanson, our Director of Facilities here at East, has been in conversation with Meyer. I really don't have much more than that. I do know Meyer has had their people out. They've obviously got to go through the permit process. As to a start date or commencement date on this, I have no information to present tonight. My hope is that we would have something going over the Christmas break. I'm not going to say that won't happen, but right now I can't give anything definitive on the East Campus modulars. Is there any questions on that? that completes items requiring board discussion action. That'll move us into board comments and announcements. Ms. Clinton, if you want to lead off with Links Fund.
Sure. So on everybody's seats, you should have seen these. If you've been to any of our recent events, Mr. Dykes took the time to stuff them in there, which I greatly appreciate. Getting word out person by person. Last week on Thursday, we had our Give Hope event, and if you were there or you've watched the recording, you will have seen kind of what I'm talking about here. But as we mentioned, we have an annual goal. This year's goal is $500,000. This is an annual campaign we're rolling out. This is not a one-time ask. This is working on building a culture of annual giving at our school. So we took the number of households we currently have at the school, divided that up by our goal, and we are asking for an average of $675 per household. But there's a myriad of ways you can give, and you can always give more, including the Links Legacy, which is $1,996 because the school was founded in 1996. We're going to honor those that choose to contribute that way by putting plaques up at both campuses, showing everybody that has put their name down for the Links Legacy. So we just want to reiterate that this is an ask that, for right now, the $675 per household, you can look at, there's a form actually at the top of the website. It says donate in bright yellow now. We have a form and you can pick how you can give, what's best for your household. There's monthly options, there's a one-time option. You'll get a thank you receipt, you'll get your tax form. All of our donations are tax deductible. So we also ask if your employer matches, or if you don't know, go check and see if your employer will match. So we're at the end of the tax year. It's a good time to consider doing that now. So if you've already seen this, that's fine. But for those of you here, take it home. Give it to somebody else and keep passing the word around. We'll be sending stuff home in folders. We hope to maybe have a hard copy mailer that'll come to everybody as well. So please join us in developing this culture of giving at MA and developing the Links Fund. We need everyone's time, talents, and treasures. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Clinton. Mrs. Belisle, are you delivering the information on December Cafe Chat?
Sure. Joe and I will be at Serrano's at 9 a.m. on Monday. And there is some information that went out for you to RSVP so we can plan on who all is going to be there. And we'd love to see anybody who wants to come out and have some coffee and chat. That's it.
Thank you. And then the COO Fireside Chat, as Ms. McClellan had spoken about earlier in her introduction. We'll be setting some stuff up, going out to the community. We'll be working with you to do that, so I don't really have any details or any specifics to give out. You already spoke about it. I just wanted to make sure that we let the community know that there will be, I guess you call them couch chats, so fireside chats, just an opportunity to engage and get to know you. So. Board, any other comments or announcements? Outside of tabling the athletic wear for next month, any new business that needs to be addressed now for next month's agenda? All right, hearing none, Mrs. Belisle, I'm going to ask you to read the executive session citation.
I move that we adjourn to executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 for A, C, D, E, and F. To discuss property interests related to West Campus, to discuss matters required to be kept confidential under federal and state law, to convey student and HR issues to school leadership, to discuss details of security arrangements, to determine matters subject to negotiations related to property interests and independent contractor matters, and to discuss personnel matters and legal questions regarding CFO/acting COO.
Second.
We have a second. Board, any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Belisle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buczkowski?
Aye.
Mr. Carley?
Aye.
Mrs. Clinton?
Aye.
Mr. Years?
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Ryan Graham votes aye. That motion carries. So to you, those of you that are out here tonight, This will be a long executive session. I'll just go ahead and tee that up now for you. We're going to resign ourselves to a conference room. You are welcome to stay in here, but I would be prepared for at least a couple hours minimum. Our intent is to come back from executive session. I do believe we'll have some action to take. If you're not here, that will be on the recording, and we will get that out. So thank you everyone for being here tonight. All right, good evening to our community. We have adjourned from executive session. We are back in open session. It is 10:38. We do have a few action items to take. I will start by reading a statement in regards to one of the action items. As of today, the MA Board has received a letter of resignation from our CFO, Mark Brocklehurst, which will be effective January 6, 2023. I can tell you that Mark has been a stalwart in helping us navigate the financial challenges this school has faced. We are extremely grateful to him for the time and commitment he has given to the MA family. We wish him great success as he embarks on a new journey in the private sector, where he can continue to advance his talents and passion in the financial arena. Like every challenge we have faced at MA, we will carve a path forward and continue in our relentless pursuit of advancing excellence for Monument Academy. Board, as a matter of formality, I will make two motions. The first will be that I move that we accept the letter of resignation from Mark Brocklehurst dated December 8, 2022.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion, Board? Then I will call the vote. Mrs. Belisle?
Aye.
Mr. Buczkowski?
Aye.
Mr. Carley?
Aye.
Mrs. Clinton?
Aye.
Mr. Gears?
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Ryan Graham votes aye. That motion carries. The second motion will be, I move that the hiring subcommittee, comprised of Ryan Graham and Lindsay Clinton, commence talks with our interim COO to determine best and immediate steps forward.
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Belisle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buczkowski?
Aye.
Mr. Carley?
Aye.
Mrs. Clinton?
Aye.
Mr. Gears?
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Ryan Graham votes aye. That motion carries.
Okay, our second action item is in regards to Highway 105. I motion to authorize the Highway 105 Committee, comprised of Craig Carley and Ryan Graham, to authorize an engagement with a construction manager and notices for potential vendors.
Second.
Board, there's a second. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, Mrs. Belisle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buczkowski?
Aye.
Mr. Carley?
Aye.
Mrs. Clinton?
Aye.
Mr. Gears?
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Ryan Graham votes aye. That motion carries. That will complete our action items coming out of executive session tonight. Therefore, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and we do not have any citizen comments not pertaining to agenda items, so at this point, we are dismissed.